My name is Hannah Ewald, and I am the Youth Ministries Director here at Powell United Methodist Church. And I'm really excited to be with you here today on SermonLink. I'm also the face behind our social media accounts here at Powell, so it's cool for me to be face-to-face with you on Facebook today. I am super pumped to be preaching this Sunday, so let's dive into the scripture. Today we are going to be reading from Mark chapter 5, verses 25 through 34. A swarm of people were following Jesus, crowding in on him. A woman was there who had been bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a lot under the care of many doctors and had spent everything she had without getting any better. In fact, she had gotten worse. Because she had heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his clothes. She was thinking, if I can just touch his clothes, I'll be healed. Her bleeding stopped immediately, and she sensed in her body that her illness had been healed. At that very moment, Jesus recognized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" His disciples said to him, "Don't you see the crowd pressing against you? Yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus looked around carefully to see who had done it. The woman, full of fear and trembling, came forward. Knowing what had happened to her, she fell down in front of Jesus and told him the whole truth. He responded, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace, healed from your disease." I really love this scripture, and I think one of the reasons I like it is because it's not that popular, but it's also really neat because of its placement in Mark. So this is kind of sandwiched in between two other healing stories. The first one comes before, and it's the story of Legion, and then following this story is the story of Jesus healing Jairus' daughter. So Legion, we know, is demon-possessed. He's seemed as kind of being insane. No one can control him. And Jairus is the leader of a synagogue. So he, first of all, has a name. He's a prominent leader. And Jesus is actually on his way to heal Jairus' daughter when he comes in contact with this woman. And you'll notice that the woman in this story is not given a name. And this story is actually shared in 3 Gospels total, and not in any of the Gospel stories is she ever given a name or identified. So another really important piece of this story is we know that she's bleeding. And so during this time, we know through Levitical laws that bleeding and that flow of blood represents a ritual impurity. So that means that she was also in social isolation. She wasn't within her community. She wasn't, in contact with her friends and family. People were not really hanging out with her. She was impure. So the fact that she herself knew that this was probably her only chance to receive healing from Jesus, this wondrous worker, showed that she had a lot of faith, and she allowed that faith to press her forward in the crowd and make contact with Jesus. And another important piece to point out is that her identity is rooted in her uncleanliness. And we know that in the end of the story, Jesus names her, and he calls her by her name, not woman, he calls her daughter. Which also has a really personal note that now Jesus and this woman are connected as one. This message also shows us of Jesus's radical inclusivity. I love the word radical, and I love the word inclusivity. So Jesus, he feels the power leaving him. I'm going to read that one more time. At the very moment that the woman felt her bleeding stopped, Jesus recognized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" He chose to stop for the woman with no name while he was on the way to heal the daughter of a religious, prominent leader with a well-known name. I think it's important for us to think as Christians, how are we called to also cross these boundaries in our world and in our society and reach out a hand and extend to someone else? How can I help you? Where are you hurting? And where can I offer grace and healing and peace to you? The last two sermon links have been around the theme of faith. And before I even I didn't really make the connection once I chose this passage to preach on, but I think it's just a testament to how our faith is so important in our relationship with Jesus and with God. And we know through this passage that the woman, the daughter's faith, is identified as the real source of her healing. And we know that faith is translated as our belief and our trust in God. I'm really excited to share this message with you on Sunday. It would be great if you could like and share this video on Facebook with your friends and family. And I look forward to seeing you soon.